PhD here with, well, actually a lot more people than what I anticipated and having today. We have myself, Larry Arsenault, Justin Reese, known also as Raptor. I mean, I had a pause there. I don't know why. I know, intro fail. We also have Emerson Ardon, Luis, which no one on my channel really knows about. And then we got Emerson's friend, Jimmy Johnson. And, well, on Emerson's end, they're going to be doing a podcast, and we're going to be doing a co-op series race, so we're actually going to have an interesting night for once. So.
No, but a shit race.
Oh, and Larry, you can give the race name away, cause
I don't know what you changed it to, or if you did change it, I should say.
I did. I went with the last option you gave me.
It's actually not showing up on your YouTube channel for some reason.
Oh. Yeah.
Hang on, let me reload your channel here and see if I can't.
Rip, sorry guys, we got technical difficulties. It loaded up for me. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I see something. I see something now.
Yeah, we're running off an ARCA budget, sadly. We're too broke for this fucking
Let's see,
game.
the Hailie, Deegan, and Queen Decker 350.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a party for the winner tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty.
I didn't mean that way.
I had my mic muted, but so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start here. Speaking about being on a budget, Furniture Racing announced earlier today that they will be ceasing operation at the end of the 2018 NASCAR Monthly Energy Cup Series season. What are our thoughts on a defending series championship winning race team calling it quits because money issues and losing sponsorship, etc.? Before we get into what's rumored and where Truex and Cole Pearn will go, let's talk about Furniture itself first.
Regan Smith had some success in qualifying to finally winning at Darlington, where technically it's the second win, which will not go into any further as to why it's the second win, to just become winning contenders, the champions. They're the first team since Raymond Beadle's Blue Max Racing in 1990, where the defending championship winning team ceased operations at the end of the following season, and that was Rusty Wallace within that team that went to Penske in 1991. And the reason why I'm talking this loud because I have to get rid of background noises.
All right, but so you're saying that this is not the first time that. When Raymond Beadle's team shut down, so Rusty and took the Miller genuine draft money to Roger Penske in 1991, where he stayed for the rest of his career. I just want to say, this is gonna really dictate how much trouble this sport is in. You're a defending series champion who had 8 wins last season, 8 wins, has 4 wins this season, and can't find a sponsorship. The team is shutting down. He's third in points. He's competing for a championship, considered to be one of the big 3, and he can't find a sponsorship. The team just shut down. What? What is happening? I mean,
a world crisis.
Why
This should be a wake-up call to NASCAR.
Why are one of the most successful teams in the most recent year and 2 years struggling? And now finally calling it quits at the end of the season. What is this?
I was at a loss. I expected it because it sounded like they weren't going to get sponsorship. But even when I was expecting it, I was still thinking, why? A team is doing so good. 12 wins since the beginning, since February 2017. This team has won 12 times.
That's just the nature of the sport these days.
Be ready, ready. Drive safe, be smart. Keep your head on straight. Hammer down. Green's out. Outside by himself. All clear. Hard from the outside. Outside. Hold your line. Clear high, clear high. Hard from the outside. Outside. Clear high, clear high.
But okay, but what kind of story it would be for you to say you're the sponsor of a race car driver whose wife is fighting ovarian cancer? You were the small team, the little engine that could, and now you're dominating races and winning championships. What kind of a story that would be for you to be a part of? And you're not out here doing your job. What?
Stay in line, hold your line. Stay in line,
Yes,
hold your
but
line.
Furniture Row is
Inside.
huge backfire since they switched to Toyota. They became aligned with Gibbs. They went to a two-kart team, lost lots of money,
Clear all around.
and now they're barely hanging on.
Inside.
So, them ultimately switching to
Bottom clear all the way to the
Toyota
bottom.
could have possibly led to this, where if they stayed with Chevy,
Inside.
they're probably not going to become a two-kart
All clear.
team, or at least not a second full-time team. And they wouldn't have had to buy an entire new chassis, new body, get new equipment and everything. If they would just stay in with what they had before, all they would have to do was adapt to aero packages because the car is the same, just splitters and aero spoilers.
Hard from the outside. Outside. All clear.
I don't think they. I mean, I don't think they would have won their championship, but I think they would still be a team and they would still win some races.
Yeah, and the whole landscape would have probably be so much different than instead of talking about Truex and being a heavy contender was just going to be just Harvick. Maybe mostly Harvick would have been the focal point of this time period instead of just being him, Truex, and Harvick.
So let's go ahead and let's get more people involved. Larry, Kyle, Craig, what are your thoughts? Raptor, what are your
Wow,
thoughts
that's
on
fast.
Truex?
It shows-
Not Truex, the team.
It shows you how much a cup car is also to run. The cup cars are not cheap. Coming from a driver's perspective and knowing what to run a race car is, race cars are not cheap. It's probably one of the most
Stay high,
expensive
stay in
sports out
line,
there
hold your
outside
line.
of the other major leagues. Talking about baseball, football, and other racing series.
Clear low.
NASCAR is not cheap to run. Tires are not well enough to run. That's why Goodyear has been bringing harder compounds. But the drivers want these cars to lose their grip, and it shows you how it's just not a cheap sport. That's why we need sponsorships, and that's why you see that so many things shutting down at the end of this year.
It comes to the point where, wasn't it just a couple years ago, you used to be able to have 12 sets of Goodyear tires per race, and now you only get like 3 or 4, 5?
Well, the
Yeah,
R2
something like
series,
that.
Xfinity, and look at what the trucks and Xfinity did. They have a tire limit on both series, and trucks have NASCAR's divided
That was
engines
a better
for
lap.
on the teams, and look where that actually is going for the truck series, and that's actually been good racing for this series, the R2 series, since that rule has been in place this year.
I like to say that, but if they're helping the underfunded teams, we still have teams like Travis Quapple, where a GMS pit crew member had to come over and fuel his truck. We still have
Yeah.
Norm Benning out here, one pit crew member. Like, these underfunded teams need some help, because...
Oh yeah, they need more help, but at least it's a start where they don't have to spend a shit ton of money on a race engine for week in and week out operations. That's why you start seeing rules in our racing series.
I do like that, yeah. That's something to note. But yeah, one of the most dominating racing teams in the past 2 or 3 seasons. Now with very little sponsorship besides Bass Pro, who now have left Furniture Row because Furniture Row is no longer a thing at the end of the season. You know, Barney Visser, he used to sponsor the car himself, but I mean, like you said, it's just not worth it at this point. If you're just gonna lose money by self-sponsoring it.
Clear low.
It's one of these.
Inside.
Back to the sport thing. Me, Kyle, and Larry should know it the best because all of us race.
Bottom's clear.
Up
All the way to the bottom.
Larry, how much is it to run your race car on a given weekend? On a normal
On a
race
given weekend?
Yeah.
Let's see. You're looking at maybe almost $500 in tires. Close to $150 in gas. Spare parts, maybe somewhere in the $500 to $1,000 range, depending on how much we break.
It's already $1,650.
Clear low.
And if we happen to blow a motor, that's about $15,000 to replace. So even at the local level, racing is not the cheapest thing in the world.
And now you times that by 4 or 5, and that's where the Cup Series is, or the Truck Series is at. It's just not a cheap sport.
I can't remember where I heard it, but to field a full-time NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series car is somewhere close to the $1.5 million range.
I thought that's for one race.
That is. That's on a week. That's a full-time one race.
I'm like, you
now
said
multiply that by
full-time.
about 36.
Yeah, it's.
Hold your line still there.
True. And don't forget, if you have multiple cars.
Hold your line still there.
And the restricted plate cars are.
Yeah.
Restricted plate cars are not cheap to make either.
No.
Think about how long these guys have been working on these Daytona cars and Talladega cars. They start this right at the end of the season, probably a month after the season, or they're starting it sooner.
Yeah, just to go get torn up on lap 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's. It's NASCAR's just not in a good spot right now, and also, with what you said, with the president of NASCAR getting in trouble with the law, sponsorships don't want to see that at all.
But
It will
Stay high up here. Hold your line.
I can see it being that.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's as far as Furniture Row is concerned. But we have just confirmed about a couple hours ago, Cole Pern, Martin Truex Jr., and
Hold your line still there.
crew members will be going over to the 19 car next season.
As well as Bass Pro Shops.
And Bass Pro Shops, that's right. So yeah, Suarez just got the boot.
Back to Mexico he goes.
Before we get
No,
to...
I actually have a theory about what could happen there.
Before we get to what happens to Suarez, what does this move for Truex? Does it end up being a good thing or a bad thing? We saw Suarez is not the greatest at 19, but he did towards right before he got the boot. Suarez was getting better and better each week in the 19 car, and now it's just going to be all for naught. He won't have the right next season, but
I don't know. Suarez, I think he needed a little bit more time next time to get used to these tracks. Some more.
definitely, I think he needed more time to
behind the
Xfinity. But also, it's not his fault necessarily. Carl Edwards retired at a weird time, and Suarez was just the next one in line. He's like, get in the cup car, man.
Yeah, it was just a It was a very bad set of circumstances when it comes to how Suarez got the ride, because it wasn't like a typical call-up from Xfinity. This was a last-second decision that had to be made.
He wanted to do at least another year in Xfinity. I think he was signed for another year in Xfinity.
He was, but with George getting the boot and with Eric Jones not ready yet, he's starting his rookie season in Xfinity. That
Christopher Bell?
No,
Eric Jones.
Yeah,
Eric Jones is in the 20.
Inside.
No, he couldn't. I forgot about that.
It's just, I feel like Suarez's career kind of got ruined by him getting thrown into the 19 car at a time where he even himself wasn't ready. But like, what are you gonna do? Say no and then not have an opportunity to move up at all? I mean,
Exactly.
I feel like he was just in a bad spot. And it's ultimately up to him, because he said his dream is just to drive race. It wasn't necessarily to get the cup. He's already fulfilling his dream. I mean, I'm sure he'd love to win a cup race, but I don't know. Let's say, hey, before we, well, I guess we'll just finish up with Suarez and we'll get back to Truex. Or we'll have a, so Truex being in the 19 car, does he do better? Does he do worse? What do we think?
I think he does better, because we saw with Carl Edwards, that car can win races and it can perform. I think it was just the driver that was underperforming the car.
To be honest, and also crew chief and relationship, you had probably the best two relationships in the garage. With those two in the 19, I think the 19 is going to win some races next year, but
I think he's gonna win some. I just don't think it's going to be.
Dominate.
Not to disrespect Truex in any way, but he has not been consistent this season. He's won a race and then DNF. Won a race and DNF. Like, okay. So I think it's even going to be less consistent now, especially because he's going to have to kind of adapt to a new facility. He's not going to be in Denver anymore. So he'll get up to speed quickly, but yeah. I was done. Oh, Craig.
Stay in line, hold your line. Stay in
I was
line,
about to
hold
say
your
the
line.
equipment's almost miracle. Same. So
We saw at some points the 78 team clearly even better than most of the Joe Gibbs cars, maybe with the exception of Kyle Busch. So that's where I think maybe it's actually gonna hurt him in the long run, because he definitely, out of the Toyota racing team cars, he was definitely the best or second best driver in the 78 car. He's outbeating the 11, the 20, and the 19 on any given weekend, and the 18 sometimes.
Hold your line, clear all around.
That is true. I didn't even think about, home life being an influence on
That was a
performance.
better lap.
That's very true. It could get. Yeah. But I didn't even think about the move from Denver to Charlotte for Cole Pern would be that. I didn't even think, it didn't even occur to my mind that that very well could influence some results. So we'll see. I guess we have no other choice. Do we think Truex goes even harder to finish out the season on top, or do you think Truex kind of falls under and just kind of midfields it through the playoffs?
Probably goes harder.
I think he pushes, but he doesn't push as hard as he did last year.
All right, so we're pretty much saying he's gonna try to get to the Final Four, but he's probably not winning the championship.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, if he can somehow push it and win the championship and put Furniture Row out on top like Brad did with Dodge, it would be a great story.
Yeah. So that's what we have. Furniture Row shutting down. Carl Edwards. What the fuck? Truex is going to the 19. Suarez is out of a ride. Larry, I heard you had a theory. What happens to Suarez, possibly Bell, upcoming? So why don't you go ahead and share that with us?
Okay, so it's kind of far-fetched, but Levine has already announced that they are switching to Toyota next year, which sparked me to believe that Christopher Bell is going into one of those rides. However, with Furniture Row shutting down, I think it's possible that Levine buys that charter, gets a second full-time car, and puts Suarez in the second car.
That's possible.
Oh.
McDowell finished 10th. McDowell finished 10th in the 59 at Homestead, so 59 is not a bad car. Alright, so we spent a while already on Truex. It's very sad to hear. But yeah, Truex going to the 19 with Cole Pern. Bass Pro Shops is going to the 19. I don't know if Eris is going to stay with Joe Gibbs, since they are pretty much a Joe Gibbs sponsor since they went from Edwards to Suarez. I don't know, maybe Eris goes to Eric Jones. That's my theory. I don't know.
I think what you'll see with Eris is they may fill in the sponsorship races that 5 Hour did not would have signed next year, should they have actually stayed in the sport, and should Furniture Row have stayed. But the other thing is they could actually go with Suarez wherever he does wind up, whether it is a second car at Levine or maybe some other shock ride that opens up at the end of the season.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to start off with the Cup Series review, the 69th annual Bojangles Southern 500. Clearly a domination fest by yours truly, Kyle Larson. What do you have to say about just the way he drove his race yesterday, before we even got to the final restarts, just Kyle Larson driving the race in general? Well, what do we say about that?
It was good to say the least. I mean, Larson, not one of the big three, but definitely one that I wouldn't say necessarily is a long shot, but he could beat them if they beat it. If a strategy call or something happens, Larson is one of the favorites to actually upset the big three this season.
Here's the thing, get him into the Final Four at Homestead. He's amazing at Homestead.
He would be a right-up favorite at Homestead. Like, we saw it last year. He clearly was faster than the 18 and the 78 there, but out of respect and sportsmanship, he decided not to go for the win and screw up their race while they were racing for a championship.
So we say Kyle Larson led 284 of 367 laps. He earned 54 points and 2 playoff points. Pretty good race for Kyle Larson. We did see throughout the race he had some trouble with lap cars, most notably Austin Dillon. What do we think about the lap cars at Darlington? I know it's more of it's going to happen every year no matter what, but lap cars at Darlington this year seem to be really impeding some of the racers. I mean, Derek Cope was out here 25 laps down and blocking the leaders. So.
If you're already lap,
Blake Jones was not in that race.
Goddamn shit boxes.
Wait, Derek Cope was running at the end, and he was 23 laps down.
Almost ready. Drive safe, be smart. Keep your head on straight. Hold your line, still there.
But yeah, so what about Kyle Larson and Austin Dillon? Do you think what Austin Dillon did was right, or I don't know? What do you think about it?
Stay low, hold your line, still there. High lane's clear, hard from the outside, outside, inside and out.
Not that I don't disagree with that, but Larson was not pushing at the end of the stages. Well, at the end of stage 2 was there, but at the end of stage 1, he wasn't pushing. He was letting I mean, literally, you saw him pull off to the left side and let some people get laps back. He wasn't pushing to pass the 3 car. He just got close to the 3, and then the 3 almost put him in the wall, or did put him in the wall. So, I don't know. And then, I don't know, what do you have to say about lap cars in general? It was a pretty tough race, lap cars.
I feel... Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
All clear.
Suarez was 9 laps down.
Still there.
Landon Castle was 10 down.
Stay high, stay high.
And I believe he put the 00 in P30 at the end of the day.
Yep. JJ Yaley was 17 down. BJ McLeod was 20 down. Derek Cope was 21 down. Jeffrey Earnhardt was 23 down.
Oh, when we get to the Xfinity Series, I have a little bit on Landon Castle I'd like to bring up.
So that lap cars, repeating most of the race, that's kind of Darlington. What do you think about... I'll let y'all decide what to call it, but the incident with Kyle Busch and Joey Gase, was it a misjudgment? Was it a misjudgment, a flat-out dumping? What do we say about Kyle Busch taking out the 23
did
car?
not see that, so I can't
I don't know
comment.
what you're talking about. But, okay.
At Bristol, it's the same thing. Does he hate with fellow Toyotas?
Still there.
He took out Truex at Bristol, and Joey Gase, who was driving the number 23 Toyota,
Clear low.
he's taking out 2 Toyotas in 2 straight races.
Great job, driver. That's a fast lap right there.
Yeah,
I think that could be the case, because some drivers, like, they have the 3-tap rule, like, I'll tap you once, move, I'll tap you twice, okay, you better move. The 3rd time, I'm moving you.
Alright, I don't know if you saw the 23 car crash, Luis, but what about you?
Stay high, stay high. Hold your line.
I feel like it's just typical racing. I didn't really see anything being determined.
Stay high, stay high. Hold your line, still there. Stay high up here. Stay in line, hold your line. Hold your line. Inside. Clear low. Towers called a caution.
Some performances all around, but look at Darlington, and people complain about lap traffic more so than ever.
Alright, so lap traffic's one thing. Another very tough issue at Bristol was pitting. We saw Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, two of the sport's veterans, miss pit road at Darlington, get commitment cone violations. And then another couple veterans, Ryan Newman and Clint Boyer, while Ryan Newman was trying to pit from the middle of the racetrack. I still don't know to this day why he was trying to pit from the middle of the racetrack. But he was, and there was a crash after. So what about just getting on the pit road here, and then what about the actual Ryan Newman Clint Boyer crash?
Green flag. Inside.
Darlington's one of these tracks where it is a hard pit lane to get in. You can misjudge it just a little bit by the speed. You can go too fast and you can miss it. I mean, these drivers are some of the best, but also they can make mistakes. I mean, you see them last night.
Stay high, stay high.
We have the 48, the 1, and the 6 all had commitment cone violations.
Still there. Clear all around.
Jeffrey Earnhardt had 2 penalties on the same pit stop, too many men over the wall, and tossing a fuel can.
No pressure from behind.
I mean, I understand why they shied away from the cone, but the cone is very pivotal because you really can't see it. I mean, you're in a car. I'm sure the windshield isn't as clean as you'd like it to be. So
not with rubber debris on it and shit like that. Only time that rubber debris is coming off when they.
And then it's Darlington. It's tough to get on the pit road.
I mean, they say it is the hardest pit road in NASCAR to get on.
Other than Vancouver, I believe it.
Well, I mean, we saw Denny Hamlin, what was it, last year, completely miss it and have to take another lap around?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it the year before that Hamlin did that? But
it was last year. I don't know, what about Ryan Newman pitting, and he's still in the middle lane of the racetrack, right, like at pit entry?
Bad judgment.
Really, really bad judgment. He was sitting on the racing line at like 60 miles per hour. I was confused. And Clint Boyer had nowhere to go.
I mean, if he was, clearly he was going to attempt to pit, but what he should have done is, he should have been way lower and his hand should have been out the window signaling that he's going to pit.
I don't think there was any saving him at that point to put a hand out the window. He might have hurt himself more. I mean, he was really off from pit lane.
Well, no, like, I'm not saying you should have put the hand out like where he was, because he wasn't going to get saved with a hand out the window, but I'm saying in a perfect instance he should have been lower with his hand out the window so that people could avoid him, and where he's not sitting in the middle of the racing line, because clearly that's just waiting for something to happen.
I'm like, this is a one-time thing, but let's say this happens again. There's more wrecks getting on the pit road at Darlington. Yeah, it's fun, but I mean, running into a basically parked car on the middle of a racetrack probably isn't the safest thing. So, and Ryan Newman, he got hit in the ass. I mean, so I feel like NASCAR needs to make a little bit more rule. Maybe have like you know how you have the pit access lane on the exit at Homestead and Indianapolis? Maybe you need to have them go under the white line or something to pit for turn 3. Like, as soon as the white line starts, you should be under that white line for a pit. Yeah, have a pit entry. Because man, that looked heavy.
It's getting to.
I don't. He cut half the track and took out the 48. I don't know. That was scary. I didn't know if they were alive after that one. My goodness.
Darlington's one of these racetracks where stuff can break pretty easily. How rough the track is and how track's 10 years old, but the track is in one of these areas.
What we didn't hear a lot about, and it probably happened more than what we saw in the television broadcast, but we didn't really hear a lot about the Darlington Stripe. So not this caution, but the next caution, Jeffrey Earnhardt spun out in turn 1 and 2. Caution came out, and then it came down to pit stops. Kyle Larson dominated all day, and it was by literally the front fender, the left front fender. That was the entire width between himself and leading on the restart. Brad Keselowski beat Kyle Larson by inches. I mean, I don't know. Kyle Larson's pit crew basically costed him a win by 1/10 of a second, or 1/100th of a second on pit road. I mean, that's literally how much things can be changed on pit road. I mean, it was that little, but it changed the entire outcome of the race because you could tell Kyle Larson really couldn't handle his car in traffic. I don't know, what do we say about that final round of pit stops after the Jeffrey Earnhardt spin and the ensuing restart?
All clear. Outside by himself.
Yeah, after the green flag, Brad led 24 laps. I don't know how long the restart was, but he led 24 laps in the race, and he ended up taking the victory here at Darlington. And yeah, a throwback car won. Pretty happy with that. What are our thoughts just overall on the Darlington race? It was a little boring. Honestly, I didn't watch it all, but thoughts overall on the race.
It wasn't the most entertaining race this year, but it also wasn't the least either. Like, there was still an entertainment value to it that outshined some of the other races that we've had this year.
You just posted your best lap ever. That's awesome.
Right.
I don't know if y'all heard, but
And the 11, which was just a throwback to himself.
The 48, I understand their throwback, but I feel like they could have thrown back to his first Darlington win, not his most recent.
I felt like that would have been a better fitting throwback, would have been the first, or even like maybe the 2007 Cobalt car.
You just posted your best lap ever.
That's
awesome.
What was it? The next year's Southern 500 theme is the
1990 to 94.
1994.
I already have a prediction for a couple throwbacks.
Shoot.
That I'm actually gonna go ahead and comment. We will see the black number 3 return, despite what Martha Earnhardt said about 4 years ago, that she did not want to see another black number 3 in NASCAR.
I mean, that's the one to ask the family about. That's the one that they should ask the family about.
I don't know, man. I'm sure there's another 3-car scheme between 1990 and 1994 Austin Dillon will run.
Personally, I don't want to see the black number 3 come back because that's just a dark scheme to remember and have to re-look at, because obviously, even if it's not based on the 2001, like, there was not a lot of changes on that black number 3 throughout the years.
Okay, but we still have Fireball Roberts throwbacks. What makes that any different?
There's really no difference.
Yeah. I don't know. That's more of a topic we'll discuss at a later date, probably around a couple weeks before today next year. So after Darlington, 2 drivers have yet to lock themselves into the playoffs, but 14 drivers have. Let me go and forget exactly who's locked in. I got this. Any moment now. Okay. So we have Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., Clint Boyer, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch, Eric Jones, Austin Dillon on wins. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Eric Almirola on points. Jimmy Johnson is 87 ahead in 15th. Alex Bowman is 68 ahead in 16th. Do they both make the playoffs? Or hold on. Do we see a first-time winner outside of the top 16 win Indianapolis?
I say no because Indy's.
It's gonna have to be a race like last year where there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the front to manipulate a chance for somebody outside the top 16 to win.
Agree with that.
So right now, Alex Bowman, 68 points ahead of Ricky Stenhouse. He is like, if we can guarantee there would not be a new winner next week at Indianapolis, or a winner from outside the top 16 at Indianapolis, Alex Bowman's already mathematically in. But because there is the chance of a new winner at Indianapolis, even in the slightest bit, he's not mathematically locked in. He's actually in by over, because for a full race he gets 60 points. He has 68. Jimmy Johnson has 87. Provided there is a first-time winner outside the top 16, who makes it in, Johnson or Bowman?
Hold your line.
Yeah, I want to give the edge to the 48 on this one.
Inside.
I mean, if 48 doesn't have another big mistake like he did this week, but who knows?
Stay high, stay high. Hold your line.
And he's one of these tracks where a simple car gets moves underneath you like we seen last year. You can take your race up. Anything can happen deep in the field. So
anything can happen anywhere in the field. We saw Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. 1-2 take each other out.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Anything can happen in this field.
All clear.
So yeah, anything can happen. It's more likely that the current chase grid we have now is going to be the playoff grid, leaving Indianapolis. So who does win Indianapolis?
Shit.
I say to one of the big three. I have to say probably Harvick or Kyle Busch.
Damn, Kyle.
My bad, yo.
No, you're good. Oh my god, Tommy Joe Martin's got stage points. What the hell?
Someone might repeat. Could be. Very well.
If I had to go, I mean, it's not out of the question. Jimmy was battling for the lead with 2 laps to go last year.
Oh, they have, but I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Be ready. Drive safely.
The other thing is, where Chevy has got the Camaro pretty well figured out at this point, it's possible that a Chevy could pull off the upset and win. Whether it be the 48 or the 42.
And you never want to count Jimmy Johnson out of anything, because he's had, I mean, he's not had the best season, but Chad Knaus will always find a way.
Oh god.
You can
Chad
always
Knaus is one of the smartest and best in the business. If there's a crew chief that can figure out how to turn around a season as rough as Jimmy's had, he's the guy.
And let's go back to 2011, and no, he did not win the championship in 2011, but he wasn't having the greatest season as well. He turned it up. If it wasn't for his crash at Charlotte, he probably had a better chance to win the title. But Jimmy Johnson hadn't won all season, save for Talladega. He won the Talladega Spring Race, but for the entire regular season, he had not won. As soon as he got to the chase, everything started to turn up. Chad Knaus brought the heat. They won Kansas. They crashed at Charlotte, which pretty much ended their chance to win the title. But so anything can happen with the 48 team, honestly.
It really can. I mean, the 48 team's been one of the best Cinder cars last handful of few years. But
Stay in line, hold your
it's going to be interesting.
Can they find that heat again?
Can Chad Knaus do it? We know he can, but okay, will he do it?
The equipment is starting to get there for Chevy. I think they need a little bit more help with those cars. but they've been fast at restricted plates.
Inside, clear behind.
So they start off the playoffs with Las Vegas, 1.5 miles. Not going to expect a lot out of Hendrick out of the 1.5 miles, but we have Richmond. It could turn out to be a wreck fest. Something could happen. And then we have the big variable. The Roval is the cutoff race.
And it's probably one of the best, and we have yet to see anything from that place.
We have no idea who will win the Roval. Will it be AJ Allmendinger? Will it be Truex? Will it be Kyle Busch? Who's going to win the Roval? We don't know.
I feel like Allmendinger's got to be a ride-in favorite, just because he's always won when you go to the
bottom's clear all the way to the bottom.
But where this is a different style and a new road course,
Exactly.
Could that actually play a factor?
I think you're going to see someone outside the top 16 win that race.
I feel like considering he is... So here's the thing, I would say Allmendinger is the favorite for that race too. Considering when he goes into Sonoma and Watkins Glen, he always has the pressure on him. I have to win one of these two races or I don't make the playoffs. I have to win one of these two races or I don't make the playoffs. That's the pressure going into Sonoma and Watkins Glen. He can go into Charlotte, he won't be in the chase, so he won't have any pressure. And because it's a new road course, and he's already excelled at road course racing, he's going to have the upper hand already going in there. So, AJ Allmendinger has zero stress, and he's great at road course racing. So we could see something out of the 47 out of nowhere.
All clear.
I don't know how a veteran and a road ringer makes that kind of mistake, but it happens. I guess he accidentally downshifted.
All clear. Hold your line.
That's Jimmy Johnson's only road course win to this day.
I'm gonna bring something up about Charlotte.
Yeah.
I really think the people who's an advantage who does the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
All clear.
I know it's a completely different track, completely different banking, but that's the only Roval that these Cup guys could actually technically run, and you could probably bring something.
And let's take a look at all the people who have driven at the Rolex 24. So we've had Mick Murray, we've had Larson, we've had Allmendinger, we've had Brendan Gaughan, we've had Austin
Gordon,
Cindric.
But he's retired.
I'm talking about Jimmy Johnson has.
Hold your line. All clear.
Somewhere around there. I believe that's it as far as I know.
You just posted your best lap ever.
But now let's see.
Ryan Vickers did it one year.
Let's make it a little bit more in depth. Prototypes and GT cars handle completely differently, but GT cars are heavier and handle more like a stock car than a prototype. And out of those drivers, the only driver to drive a GT car at a Roval is AJ Allmendinger, the number 86 for Michael Shank Racing.
I think you give the advantage to Allmendinger for this one. I really think he can win Charlotte. I agree with you.
Man, that was your best lap ever.
I just want to bring Daytona up this point and it's in the back though. But that's a completely different racetrack, but... Exactly.
Yeah.
Hold your line, still there.
And another thing.
All clear.
Let's also not forget AJ Allmendinger has also when it was just the oval in the playoffs, he's always run well at Charlotte, the oval in the playoffs. The fall race he always runs top 10. So a Roval is just added. So we might see something out of the 47 we haven't seen in a while.
More track length. Problems with these cars, if these cars are not hooked up for the place, I don't know. That's why we've seen testing there before the season even started, but it's going to be a different complete year and different time of year, and track it's going to have a different type of bite to it.
Not only...
Yeah.
I don't agree with the idea because cars are... It's banking. I know it's not that much banking, but these are very heavy cars. If you tap the throttle even a little bit, there's so much horsepower in those rear wheels and water on the racetrack. I don't like it, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, we saw it in the All-Star race, granted those were on slicks, but we saw the chaos that can happen when you put rain plus a stock car at Charlotte.
Stay low, stay in line, hold your line.
Yeah. People are going to be extra aggressive.
Especially if you're right on the bubble. Because what, it's the cutoff in the second round or first round?
First round.
First round. So yeah, if you're in 15th or 16th going into that race and you got to gain, let's say, 15, 20 points, you got to go. You can't hold back.
No, and road coursing is a driver's track. I think this is the thing. Drivers are going to have more control than the cars with air or mechanical, but yeah, the cars going to be effective through 1 and 2 in the high speed.
That was your best lap ever.
That's it.
Yeah, but I definitely agree. Road course racing comes down to not setup, but car control.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's go ahead and the Cup Series won't be the only series running to Roval. We have the Xfinity Series. They will be running to Roval, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Let's go back to Darlington, backtrack a few weeks. We have Austin Cindric, lap 2 coming on to lap 3. Huge crash on the front stretch. What about Austin Cindric? I mean,
keep it up.
That was
your best lap ever.
Yeah, tough break.
If anybody saw his in-car after he crashed, he was
I mean,
livid.
I heard he was actually in tears in his interview.
I mean, he literally was pounding the wheel and he was having a tantrum, but you kind of feel for him because he's right on the bubble and he was running in the top 10 and he just wrecks.
He was having the race that he needed to help him get into the playoffs. That was a race he needed to do well in. He was doing well, and heartbreak.
It was.
Stay high, stay high.
I didn't see it, so I can't.
I didn't see it either.
Bottom's clear all the way to the bottom.
Well, I mean, where was the contact? Was it coming out of 4? Was the 11 on the right rear? Square on the left rear? I mean, I feel like the arrow is just too touchy with those cars. Like, you could literally probably barely touch that car, like we saw back in 2012, where you barely had to touch them and boom, gone.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough break after tough break for the kid.
He and Chastain. Yeah, so him and Chastain, we'll get to Chastain in a little bit. They're both less than 1 race above the cutoff. So they're a little worried now.
Yeah, they have to be.
We go on to Ross Chastain, and we all know it was the highlight of the NASCAR side of motorsport side of the weekend. Ross Chastain dominated Darlington. I mean, he led 90 laps. He led 90 laps. He won both stages, and he went toe to toe.
I think he had the best car.
He went toe to toe with some of the best drivers. I mean, his opponent, Kevin Harvick, only led 18 laps compared to Ross Chastain's 90. So we talk about the incident. Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, they're battling for the lead. They come up on lap car, I believe the 40, it was Chad Fincham. No, it wasn't. It was Chad. It was Chad Fincham. My bad. So they lap Chad Fincham, and then Ross Chastain. He's on the high side of the groove, but he's trying to stay in the groove to where he doesn't lose control of his car. Kevin Harvick is shoving his car into the side of Ross Chastain, but he's also trying to stay on the groove. The groove at Darlington is very small, but they're already pretty much door to door. They just lapped the car, so there's no room on the outside. And if you go any higher, you pretty much lose control of your car, and you pretty much yield the lead. So it was from there. Harvick got a little loose on the inside of Chastain, and then put Chastain into the wall. Chastain regathered the car, and then made contact with Harvick that sent him spinning.
Unpopular opinion, that was all Kevin Harvick's fault.
I believe it was mostly, I'm not going to say all, I believe it was mostly his fault.
I believe that Kevin Harvick overdrove the car going into 3 to make that move on Chastain, which led to him getting loose. Because it looked to me like he went full send it mode.
I agree. He was on the aggressive, and I believe you should. I think you should race aggressive to an extent. I know he's a championship contender, but it's a race. You are going to race aggressive. What I also put the blame on is the 40 car. It's not his fault, but just the
leaders just caught him at a bad time.
Yeah, they caught him at a bad time. They were side by side, and then they're 3 wide at Darlington, so that's already.
And it's not like the 42 and the 98 could just lay off and wait till the backstretch to pass them, because if the 42 does that, the 98 clears him by the time they get to the backstretch.
And then the 22 is there also, so if he yields to the 98, the 22 goes right on by.
Right, there was nothing that the 42 could have done differently. He had to be aggressive to get by, because he was fending off Kevin Harvick and Brad, I believe it was, in the 22. Keselowski.
Yes, he did win the race. But yeah, so Ross Chastain got into the wall, turned Kevin Harvick. Harvick went to the pit lane, sat in the pit box. I believe he flipped off the crew, and then went on.
I believe he should have been penalized for that.
I thought that's unsportsmanlike conduct, since Kyle Busch
they
did
do
it to
classify
a NASCAR
it. Yeah, last I knew, they classified
NASCAR.
giving somebody the bird unsportsmanlike conduct.
That was 2 laps by NASCAR, but they didn't. I guess Harvick was already out. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but Harvick went on to bitch in his interview about Ross Chastain and how he was inexperienced. My personal opinion on that, calling him an inexperienced driver, I think is really funny that the inexperienced driver outdrove him all day, led 90 laps, beat him on several restarts, and won both stages over Kevin Harvick. So I think that really
does that, and he still can't win the race.
Stay in line, hold your line. Outside by himself. Look ahead for me, clear outside.
Oh, he did say that?
Because here's another thing. He called the guy inexperienced, but he's racing in the Xfinity Series. That is where the inexperienced drivers are.
Exactly.
I want to give my 2 cents on this whole thing. Number 1, if I am not mistaken, this is Ross Chastain's first ever full-equipped, race-winning car.
He's made 215
He's been in JD
NASCAR
Motorsports for, I think, 2 years now, which JD Motorsports, they're not race winning. They're not competitive, but they can make the playoffs on points. They're consistent. They're consistent enough to where they can gain points. But for Kevin Harvick to go out and say something like that to somebody who's literally just getting their big break, it's a little uncalled for, because this is coming from a guy who doesn't need to be in this series to begin with. He has no reason to be down there other than to just go and pull a Kyle Busch and curb stomp everybody. But I digress because I understand his frustrations. Harvick had a right to be upset. He didn't have a right to go and say the uncalled for things that he did say about Chastain. But he had a right to voice his displeasure because Chastain did just turn dead left and turn him.
I agree on that part. I agree. He should have been. He could have been mad, but it's also an Xfinity race, and
yeah, it is just an Xfinity race, and he's not in the championship. Chastain's just racing to prove himself to get a chance to be in top equipment.
Yeah,
and he is in the playoffs. Yes.
Also, I regret to say this to some extent. It wasn't Kevin Harvick's first NASCAR start in like kind of top tier equipment. and he was really inexperienced.
If you're talking about Atlanta, that was technically his third. I do not know about his first two because I was way too young back then.
I'm just talking
yes,
about
he was
when
kind
took over
of.
the-
He made his debut at debut at Rocky Hamlin, then ran Vegas, and then in Atlanta for the race. In 2000, he was with RCR, and then before that, he was in truck.
The point is, the point is, he got the 29 car, which was basically the 3 car, and he was really inexperienced.
Yeah, he was already in race-winning equipment at the start of his career, so he really doesn't know what it's like to have to work your way up from subpar equipment, just barely being able to make the playoffs, compared to just being gifted top-notch equipment.
Honestly, and it's terrible circumstances how he got his ride, but he still was pretty much gifted the ride.
Yeah, it's not the way that anybody wants to, Yeah, you don't want to get a ride that way.
He was going to be part-time the third before the event at Daytona.
Oh, yeah, definitely, but the point is, Harvick is out here. He pretty much started his Cup Series career in amazing equipment, and he did, like Larry said, he didn't have to work his way up. Chastain, this is his first time being in decent equipment. Obviously,
All clear, no
if not
pressure
the
from behind.
favorite, one of the race-winning contenders, and it's just blown away by one over-aggressive Cup guy with 45 laps to go. I feel like Kevin Harvick could have waited a couple laps so they got through some lap traffic and used maybe lap traffic as a pick instead of diving it in there while he's already trying to pass the lap car.
There's no reason why Kevin Harvick couldn't have waited until the backstretch or even turn 3 to make a move. He didn't have to make that move right then and there.
I feel like an experienced driver would have, realized the situation. There's still 45 laps to go. Let me chill out for a lap, maybe get him on the straightaway.
Yeah. That's literally all there was to that.
That car ahead of you is pitting.
I would agree.
Exactly. No, Chastain's already shown that he's not one that likes to be messed with.
I would agree with giving up the spot if Brad Keselowski wasn't right there behind. Yeah, because he would have lost the spot to Brad, and then he has 40 laps to try to get around to 22, which has already proved he's a fast car. So a fast car on a fast car is going to take at least 10 laps to get around, and then Harvick's going to probably have a big lead. So I understand Chastain not giving up, considering Brad was right there. Now, if Brad wasn't there and there was some space, yeah, give it up to him, get him back the next couple of laps. But there's cars right behind him. I don't agree with him giving up the spot.
No,
in
he
his
shouldn't
first
have.
top-notch ride.
He should have been out there doing what he was doing, proving that he deserves another chance, or even an opportunity at a full-blown. Yes, he went out there and he tried to prove that, which is rightfully so. That's what you do when you're you've been driving for underfunded cars for years.
With that, so Kevin Harvick says that's the reason, like that incident is the reason why he won't get a chance to drive many more of these rides. Chip
Ganassi went on Twitter and said that he will.
Gonna say, yeah, Chip Ganassi said, in fact, I don't think he hurt himself at all. If anything, he helped himself.
He proved he can work fast.
My lane's clear all around.
Yeah.
All clear.
Oh, that's right. Chip Ganassi was in Portland because Scott Dixon's in the championship hunt right now. We'll get to that in a couple more stories we got. After that incident, it was Harvick and Harvick and Chastain. They obviously fell out of contention for the win, and then Brad Keselowski pretty much it was his race to lose. But the final 35-ish laps, he swept the weekend at Darlington. I don't know. What does it say about Brad? It's not that many times Brad sweeps a weekend. Consider there wasn't a truck race for him to sweep, but He did take both the Xfinity and Cup race.
Towers called a caution.
Yeah, that makes sense, but trucks don't race Richmond. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
No, you don't hear Keselowski sweeping that often. That's why it's a little more shocking when it does happen.
Yeah, and you're kind of happy. Like, yes, it's a Cup guy winning an Xfinity race. Cole Custer was second. That would have been cool to see. But he's also like, okay, he hasn't won an Xfinity race in a while, and he swept the weekend. That's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah.
So that was that. Let's we have Xfinity going to Indianapolis.
Oh no, there's something I wanted to touch on about Darlington Xfinity.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Landon Castle finishes 14th at Darlington. Doesn't sound that impressive, but you take out all the Cup affiliations in Xfinity, your actual first place Xfinity winner, or winner that would have been without Cup, was Landon Castle. That shows that JD Motorsports improves, which shows that Chastain did deserve to move up.
You're talking about all
it's also not. Yes, without all the Cup teams in Xfinity, if that race was like Iowa, where there's no Cup teams and the finish was exactly how it was, JD Motorsports would have got their first win right then and there, and it would have been with Landon Castle.
So I'll to his point. I know I'm stuttering a lot. Brad Keselowski won. Nicole Custer in SHR equipment. Tyler Reddick in Junior Motorsports, basically Hendrick equipment. Denny Hamlin, Elliott Sadler in Hendrick Motorsports equipment. Chase Elliott, Justin Allgaier, he's a past Cup driver and in Hendrick Motorsports equipment. Matt Tifft, RCR. Ty Dillon, RCR. Michael Annette, Hendrick. Daniel Hemmick, RCR. Brandon Jones, Joe Gibbs. Ryan Reed, Jack Roush, and then 14th is Landon Castle. In Johnny Davis.
Outside by himself.
I've preached for many years for somebody to give Castle another top-notch ride because it's been over 10 years since it happened.
No, it's that Castle will probably can roll off a shit ton of wins if he does.
Hard from the outside.
What I want to see next year is him go back to JD full-time. Because JD was not that great when Castle was driving for them full-time. But if he went back now, he could probably make the playoffs on consistency.
Oh, yeah.
Like Chastain.
Yeah. If Chastain can do it, Castle could do it.
Towers called a caution.
Yes.
Sure. No.
No, probably not.
Be ready.
No, not Truex.
Have a good day.
No.
Hammer down, green's out.
Truex already.
I think
Inside, clear behind.
I think Truex is. It's gonna pay me. It's gonna pay me to say this, and I might even get some backlash for it. I don't see Truex's passion.
I don't think
in
Truex
racing.
is one of those guys.
I don't think he's that
doesn't
passionate
show
to
it
race
that much.
week.
I do agree. He doesn't show his passion like.
There.
He shows that he can do it and he's good at it, but you don't see the heart and determination that you see from like Kyle Busch or William Byron, Jimmy Johnson, etc., etc.
Stay in line, hold your line.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Still there.
I think he just drives to be in a top-notch car because he has had one of the most roller coaster careers in NASCAR of recent years.
Yeah.
I also want to say why he won't make an Xfinity appearance is because his last one was the 2010 Ford 300. 2010 was his last Xfinity start.
Hold your line, still there. All clear.
And that was in the 8th?
I believe so. Alright, so we head to Indianapolis with the Xfinity Series. Ryan Reed is 70 points above the cutoff. Austin Cindric 60 and Ross Chastain's 54.
got 20 more
I believe the Xfinity Series starts their playoffs, 2 weeks after Cup does.
I think Xfinity runs for
Xfinity starts their playoffs. I guess. Oh wait, you're gonna make me go through all this. Sorry. Xfinity starts their playoffs at Richmond. Yes. So they have Indy and Las Vegas. They have 2 races left for the Xfinity Series, and we have Ryan Reed, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, and then outside the cutoff we have Michael Annett. Jeremy Clements is 118 behind. So pretty much only Michael Annett is the only threat from outside. I mean, because you can say Jeremy Clements mathematically has a chance to make it into the playoffs, but he has to win.
It's gotta be a win you're in.
He has to win or get 59 points both races. So, but Michael Annett is the only threat outside of the top 12. Do we see Michael Annett making the chase?
Yeah, I don't think he does. Granted, he does have one of the best equipped rides. I just don't think his talent matches the equipment.
I agree.
Oh, I thought we were gonna go Stroll.
Oh man. Alright, so we're pretty much also saying Ryan Reed, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain rounds out the playoff standings. Yeah, the Xfinity Series will also go to the Roval. That's going to be fun to see. We're going to pretty much go ahead and wrap up the NASCAR portion of our podcast because we're going to head to a portion. This portion is going to be mainly led by Luis. I'm still hosting it. But Luis had the lovely chance to spend his weekend in Portland, Oregon, where the Verizon IndyCar Series, the Pro Mazda Road to Indy Lights Series, whatever the hell. I don't know. Luis, go ahead and let's talk about the weekend. And then we'll get to specifics for the rest of us. I have your pictures pulled up, so if you want to talk about the weekend. I have pictures from mainly the highlights from the IndyCar race, and I have your Indy Lights pictures.
in line, hold your line. 10 laps to go. Stay high up here. Stay in line, hold your line. Stay in line, hold your line. Stay high, still there. Clear all around. Inside. Inside. Hold your line, still there. All clear. Inside. All clear. Inside. Clear low. Inside. Stay up against the wall, stay high. Hold your line, still there. Still there. Stay high, stay high. Stay in line, hold your line. Five to go this time by. Hold your line, still there. Clear low. Hard from the outside, outside. Hold your line, still there. Alright, need 2 more good laps from you. Hard from the outside, outside. Outside by himself.
Let's hold it right. Let's hold it right there. Let's get some opinions on this crash. Lap 1, turn 3. Like he said, it was Hinchcliffe and Veach racing hard, and Hinchcliffe went around. That's the one I want to see. 98 went upside down.
White
But,
flag is in the air.
How about that?
Fucking game.
Oh no.
And anybody see the crash?
I didn't see the full thing. I saw pictures, but not really. I can't really say anything because
it was insane. I was just chilling, and then I'm like, oh, the IndyCar race is on. I turn it on, and literally I watched like live. They're going through turn 2. I'm like, oh sweet, they just started, and then crash. I'm like, good.
What was this? Almost the third week in a row we had to restart with a crash in the open lap?
That literally was their lap 1.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But
that's what I meant. I know Pocono only had one.
Is this the second or third week?
I think it's the second. I know Pocono was one. I think last week. Last race they had.
Anyway.
3 weeks in a row.
Ready? Have a good day. Stay sharp.
What was the third one?
Inside.
I know one was Pocono.
2 laps to go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is 3 weeks in a row. Holy crap.
Stay high up here. Hold your line. Still there. Inside, clear behind. Inside, clear
Is
behind.
Sonoma the next race?
Sonoma is the next and final race.
And Sonoma's
Alright,
double
I got a question
and
for
double
Luis when we
points.
get to that point.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get there. Luis, go ahead and carry on after the lap 1 incident, or I guess the fallout
Oh
from
no,
the
I
lap.
can ask it this episode, but I want to wait till he gets towards the end before I ask it.
1 more to go. Clear high. Inside. Outside by himself. Clear high. Clear all around.
Yeah, a big crash. No, Scott Dixon was in a later crash. Newgarden was in an early crash with Ed Carpenter, right?
That was the last time both of those guys failed to finish.
That's interesting.
And keep that in mind as I go further with Dixon as far as the championship contendership goes, as far as head coaching. So yeah, Marco was out, Jones was out, Graham Rahal was out up until lap 71 when he decided to get the car back on and pass Marco and just solidify Marco Andretti's first last place finish since Barber at 2017.
Yeah, I see that. Graham Rahal finished 4 laps.
Yeah, and then when Ed Jones, that was his 4th DNF, which is the most among active drivers.
This season?
Which proves that this is not what he needed, because it's pretty much all been confirmed that Felix Rosenquist is going to probably take over his ride, and that leaves Jones without any sync. And he had a solid weekend, so it was kind of like he's hungry, he's motivated, and that's the last thing he needed in that weekend.
So he has one last race to prove himself.
Yeah, and Hinchcliffe was able to continue, but he had further problems down the stretch. So that means Bourdais and Dixon were able to continue. For Bourdais, this is not the first time he's ever worked his way from the back to the front.